tonight we're going to talk about linear equations. More specifically, how we can write linear equations. So just a reminder, a linear equation is an equation that models a linear function. So it models a graph that's a straight line. Graphs of linear functions always have to cross the y-axis at some point. That point where they cross it at is called your y-intercept. Okay, so remember, our y-axis is our vertical axis going up and down. So for our red line right here, our y-intercept is 0 because that's the y value where it crosses our y-intercept. If we look at our blue line though, our y-intercept is -3 because the blue line crosses the y-axis at a y value of -3. One way, which is actually the most common way to write equations for linear functions, is called Slope-Intercept Form. That's y equals mx plus b. In order to write an equation in Slope-Intercept Form, you need to know two things. You need to know the slope, so that's your m value, and you also need to know your y-intercept, which is your b value. A lot of times when you see me writing this, I'm just going to write y-int. That's just an abbreviation for y-intercept, just so you guys know what I'm writing when I write that. So the first thing we're going to practice doing is identifying the slope and the y-intercept when I give you an equation. So the first equation we're going to look at is y equals 5x minus 2. For this one, our slope is 5, since that's what's being multiplied by x, and our y-intercept is -2. Okay, so if you ever have a minus, make sure you make your y-intercept negative. Our next equation, we have y equals -1/2 x plus 3. For this one, our slope is -1/2, since that's the number we're multiplying by x, and our y-intercept is 3, since that's the number being added on the end of the equation. Okay? Now we're going to try and do the opposite. So I'm going to give the slope and the y-intercept, then use that information to write an equation. So the first one, we're going to say we have a slope of -4/5 and a y-intercept of 1. For that one, we would have the equation y equals -4/5, since that's our m, x plus 1. Okay, so we're literally just plugging our information into the equation. Let's try another one. For this one, we're going to have a slope of -3 and a y-intercept of -3/4. So for this one, we would have the equation y equals -3x minus 3/4. Okay, so remember, whenever you have a negative y-intercept, you want to have a minus here. The last thing we're going to look at tonight is trying to write an equation in slope-intercept form by looking at a graph. So remember, for your equation, you need two things. You need your slope and you need your y-intercept. So first, let's think about how to find the slope and the y-intercept. For this first graph, remember your y-intercept is the y value where it crosses your y-axis. So our y-intercept on this graph is at +3. Our slope, let's see, we can go down 1 to the right 2. So our slope would be -1 over 2. So we can write the equation y equals -1/2 x plus 3. So once again, we're just looking at the graph, pulling the information out, and plugging it into the equation. Let's do one more. For our second graph, our y-intercept is -2, since that's where it crosses our y-axis. And then our slope, we have to go up 1, 2, 3, to the right 1, 2. So our slope would be 3 over 2. So we can write the equation y equals 3/2 x minus 2. Remember, if you ever have a negative, you have to write minus. So that's it for slope-intercept for tonight.